Thanks for joining our presentation, The Power of Automating Tasks. My name is Andrew Altman. I'm a manager of data analysis with Action Lab.
And I'm Taylor Popovich, also a data analyst for EdPlus Action Lab.
Here's a quick overview of what we'll be touching on today. We'll do a quick introduction in regards to our presentation. The primary focus is going to be those use cases, so we'll probably spend a majority of the time there. I'll do a quick little open discussion and finish with some advice and a short conclusion. And questions. Okay, so we had a hard time really figuring out what this goal of this presentation was because we were trying to lump these two things together. Oops. And finally, I was like, it's two different things. So the first is we really want to inform the analysts in the room of ways that we can do a better job meeting the stakeholders' needs. And the second piece is providing stakeholders information on options available for their asks. And this really came about because in our experience, there's kind of two pain points when it comes to data requests. The first is really identifying the distinction between what's being asked of us to provide and what a stakeholder actually needs. A lot of times those are not the same thing. And then the second is really just trying to mitigate manual error-prone manipulation of data. And a lot of time that takes up valuable time for our stakeholders. On that, sorry, my notes are not showing up. Identifying the distinction between what our stakeholders request and what they truly need. So, an example of that. A lot of times we get requests where it's, hey, I need a list of these students who meet these criteria. It's like, cool. We can easily get you that list of EMPL IDs to do whatever you want with. A lot of times they take that and then in Excel are doing some type of calculation. We've even heard of people who are not very good with Excel manually calculating with like a calculator. A lot of that we can do. We have tools that aggregate, summarize data easily. And so it becomes more of a, what are you asking for versus what you need? Because we can give you that. We can give you the different summaries very easily, as well as the EMPL IDs, if that's really what you want. And being able to do that, which is our day-to-day, we can also mitigate, like I said, manual error-prone manipulation. Sometimes they're taking a long time to create these pivot tables. And then they come back and they ask again, hey, we need that data. It changes a little, and then they have to redo and re-update everything they've already done. So, with that example, we're going to hop into some use cases where Taylor and I have worked with stakeholders. In some cases, it was us going to them and saying, hey, this could be better. Like, you've asked for this one thing. We see you're taking a lot of time to do something very manually. We can make that better. We can work together. In other cases, it has been stakeholders coming to us saying, can you help us out? Like, this takes a lot of time. And then it's discussions and it's putting down requirements and understanding what the ultimate need is and getting that to them.
Can I add before we start?
Sure.
So I just want you to also, we're going to give some use cases of items that we've ran into or we've encountered, but obviously with just any type of situation and data problem, like there's not a one way to solve everything. So I want you to think if you have either A, like you know of something that you've automated and like you would like to share with everyone so we can kind of collaborate as a group and think of better ways to do this. So we're going to give you our cases, but then we'd like to open up the floor and invite you to share what you might have done, or maybe you're the person that's like, I've been spending days doing the same thing over and over, week after week, or term after term. Is there a way that we could automate this? So maybe you're on either side, but we would like to open up the floor and do a sharing time, because I think that if we do this interactive time, like we as a group can kind of come up with better solutions.
Exactly. So for this first use case, I'm going to just kind of describe what the background of it, and then Taylor's going to go through how we went about solving things. So in Stride, well, I guess I should back this up. Taylor and I work with our corporate partners. And for those of you who do or don't know, corporate partners are corporations that ASU is partnered with, hence corporate partners. And they, ASU provides a scholarship, and in many cases, those corporations help to cover the remainder, some portion of the remaining tuition. So this is one of the things that helps to further EdPlus's goals and their mission to make education more accessible by lessening that financial burden. So InStride is one of the companies that we work with to help manage a lot of our corporate partners. And in doing that, they have to send us, often weekly, but in different cadences, eligibility information. And so we ingest that, and then we know that, so we may ingest that, and we see, oh, we did not capture this person's information correctly. So we have business analysts who help to bridge that gap and ensure that those batch updates for eligibility that we receive are updating correctly. And if there are issues, we can go back, tell InStride, hey, we need a new batch eligibility, and then we can check. And there's a number of things we have to check for. And so that's kind of the basis for this. And then I'll hand it over to Taylor.
All right. Can you hit the next slide? Yes. I guess I could do it too. Okay, so for the first use case that we had, like, we were sending a weekly eligibility file to our business analyst, and it kind of looked something like this. So it was a lot of data, right? Just a lot to look at. And that's what we were sending. And then we come to find out that they were actually using that file to go ahead and filter and look for those data items that were not accurate. So they were looking for example, like if the date of birth was wrong, or terms and conditions was wrong, or if it didn't update. So they're looking for specific things for specific corporate partners, and they were checking to see if that was correct or not, and if they needed to get back to InStride and say, hey, like, we need to redo this. But we found out that they were spending 3 days of time for each batch check, which is just a lot of time and a lot of, frustration, just a lot of work for something very, very easy to pinpoint. So we saw an opportunity to make that more efficient, and so we the goal was to automate the filter process and give the business analyst the power to control the filter criteria and reduce the time checking batch updates. So kind of take away all that work and make it easy. So there's the fun eligibility file. We got together, so the solution was we got together with the business analyst and we said, hey, what are you doing? What are you filtering to? And it came to find out, like, obviously the filters were changing, so they weren't always the same. So you couldn't just say, like, oh, it's always going to be this corporate partner or always this date that we're checking on. So it's not something that was, like, hard-coded, which meant we needed to give the power to the business analyst to change the filter anytime that needed to be changed. So how did we do that? Well, we gave got them on a Google Sheet, and we put the filters under the columns that they needed, and they could just, and I'll show you in a minute so you can visually see this. But we gave them the power to change everything they needed to change, the filters, within a Google Sheet. And then that Google Sheet was tied into Alteryx, and we were able to join based on those filters, or not join, and get what we needed. So the outcome was a job that typically took 3 days, now was immediate. You didn't have to wait to find out. You didn't have to like dig through all this data. So more accurate results, reducing the chance of user error. So we're not spent, like, there still is a chance for error, but a little less, hopefully. That's the goal, right? Okay, so here is the filters that we used in the Google Sheet for the business analysts. And then as you can see, they have their corporate partners, those are all the codes. And they can change that, delete that, they can add more, they can add less, whatever ones they want to look at that time. And then if there was a column that doesn't have anything, that just means that they wanted that in the like output with the record information. So like they wanted this, the partner ID and their dependent ID. And then here's the fun part was, these were the dates that they were supposed to be changing. So we wanted the dates that weren't occurring on those days. So that is obviously changing every batch. And then the next sesh reg was like basically were they enrolled in the next session, because those students took priority because they were going to be impacted. And so we ordered that by putting them at the top. And then we wanted to know that these records were updated by InStride. And then as you can see, my captions are kind of in front of it, but as you can see, the tabs are all the different criteria that they are looking for and different specific things for each criteria. So we got like not updated 1, but then we also have a not updated 2, which was looking for different things. And then a not updated 3, we got really fancy with the names. And there's even benefit level 1, 2, and 3. So this was all the things that could be changed right there, easy peasy, no one had to go and filter. And then this was the result. So they were able to get an output with everyone who didn't have that date, and everyone who was updated by InStride. And as you can see, that was joined. So we only want those records. And then only those corporate partners. So you're not getting a big list that you have to dig through. It's exactly what you want, and you have a list. And then guess what? You can go and contact InStride and say, hey, this isn't right. And you know immediately. Yes?
So this output is from Alteryx?
Yes.
So is it running to the same Google Sheet that the input is from?
It is separate. Yeah, good question. And as you can see, we have all those fun tabs. Yeah, it's so that way it matched different output, but it matched the input. So that way it was easy to organize. All right.
Thanks. Yeah, and just to point out, I'm going to go back a couple slides to this. So he was going through, and for each of those tabs and use cases, filtering, copying, pasting, then comparing to what they were doing. And I don't know, like just the process of filtering over and over again, like it's manual, it's error prone,
So you see all those
and
tabs.
it takes time. So that was the big thing. Next one, use case 2, Ed Plus employee training reminders. Who here has received a training reminder in the last few months? Raise your hand. Yeah, that's us. We did that.
You're welcome.
So Dina, who's the Associate Director of Leadership Professional Development, reached out. And here's what she had to say. On a monthly basis, I manually generated individual reports for each of the 7 ASU required training modules. She would apply filters, and then she would have to like take all the emails, send them, put them in the BCC, and then send a mass email out. This was something that was probably taking her about 4 hours a month to do. To us, look to see these trainings, who's completed, and then just automatically email them on a monthly basis. And we said, sure, we can try to do that. So here's the use case. There's a manual creation of reports for 7 trainings. She was applying filters. She was sending individual reminders, and this was performed monthly. So the goal was to automate emails to anyone who has not completed their required training. We did not want to send to new employees or Phil. Send only on non-holiday working days every month until their training is complete. That was fun to try and figure out, and then provide a single personalized email with links to all required trainings. So whereas before she may have been sending maybe multiple emails, this year we'll send you one email with all the trainings and links that haven't been completed.
Right, if you had more than one, you could put it like all there.
Yeah. So the solution, create a workflow that can run daily and send emails to any employee who has not completed training. Create a Google Sheet to filter to specific required trainings. And we gave Dina the power to maintain that Google Sheet. So now basically, her 4 hours is virtually no time to maintain. Every once in a while, we get some false positives. Is that right? False negatives, maybe, where maybe something didn't update or we're a little behind on updating, and you get a reminder. If you've done it, just email Dina, and she'll tell you, don't worry about it. But now the only thing that she needs to maintain is this right here. Oh, I guess if you use the pointer, it takes you out of slideshow.
Oh.
So the stakeholder maintains information in the Google Sheet. We'll go to that right now. Here it is. This is what it looks like. These are 7 required trainings. So if any of these change or update, all she has to do is come in here, change the course title, and the link to the URL. That's it. And for those familiar with Alteryx, this is what it looks like. You can see upper left-hand corner, the gray icon, that's the Google Sheet. Pulls in the trainings. We join to our trainings. The next bit with under the big yellow dialogue comment bar, that's basically what tells us if we should send that email out today or not. And then a few other things, but I think the real beauty of this are these last 6 tools here, which basically allows us to create that email and then send it out. And sometimes this is sending to hundreds of individuals, and this takes virtually no time to run. It's automated to run daily, and then Dina doesn't have to worry about it. Yes?
So does this find out which ones they didn't do and just that link to the specific?
Yes. Yes, and I can go through. So
And, yeah.
this first tool takes those URLs and creates a link to the trainings. And then this groups the trainings by the person or their email.
So you're not getting multiple emails,
Yeah.
you'll just get one.
So you get one. This creates the first half of the email message. This creates the second half, and then this allows us to order it. So it goes first half, grouped trainings, second half. And then this function sends it by email.
And Andrew, what can you tell us about the email if you use Alteryx and you've never used the email tool?
Oh, yes, thank you. Always test it by sending to yourself first. Always. You don't want this to go out and send hundreds of emails to hundreds of people. Or, yeah, ideally what you would like is that it sends maybe thousands of emails to you, which we have a colleague. We have maybe several colleagues who have done this.
All right, use case 3 is that we have Slack task reminders. I'm a big fan of Slack and being able to use it to our advantage. So, are you controlling it?
Yeah. There we go.
Thank you. So we have task reminders. The problem we had several recurring potentially overlapping projects that we're working with different people across the board, different teams. And we had calendars, like places where who does what when, but they were really hard to find or get to, or they were just a pain. And it was just very difficult to get everyone on the same page and doing the same things and know when someone else is doing something. And then if you're relying on one person to kind of give all that information, you're just getting hung up. So we had a goal to automate the Slack reminder when things are due and who's doing them and what they're doing. Okay, so that was the goal.
And for clarity, these calendars were like in Google Sheets. So you'd have like days across the top with actions underneath them. Not very like user friendly, especially if it's like multiple rows per year. Like it was not great.
Well, different files, just different things, yeah. So the solution was that we'd have one person maintain these deadlines for various teams, all on one single Google Sheet, but then we would use that Google Sheet to pull into Slack and give that reminder to everyone. So we create a workflow that can pull that information and send it to a specific channel that we specified. We have specific channels for these projects on Slack, and then it also will tag specific people to take action. So whoever needs to know will be tagged. And then you can set the reminders for any given day. So obviously we don't want it to go, hey, today this is due. So we didn't want that to happen. So everyone's like, oh no, I have to do that. So we gave a reminder a few days before that, hey, this task is due on this day. And so the outcome was we're no longer scrambling to make deadlines. You're not like, oh, that's today, or oh, that was yesterday. And keep all the people within a project organized and informed. And we're no longer having to log into the Google Sheet to find the deadline. It's all easy to find and know. And be like, yeah, you were tagged in that, so can't say you didn't know. So here's the Google Sheet reminder that we have created to use for Slack. As you can see, this is just the best way we found it to work. We have the year, the file action. So these are things that will show up on the Slack, like you'll have, okay, this file, and then this action needs to be done. The file action date is the day like it needs to be done. And then the reminder date is the date it's sent on Slack. It doesn't send that date on Slack, like within Slack, just on Slack. And then the channel that we're tagging it to, so everyone knows like where it's going. And then the tag, the people who need to be informed. And this is my Alteryx workflow. Of the sample of it, to show you kind of what happens with this, if you're familiar with it. We're importing that Google Sheet into the workflow. It comes in as a string, the date's due, so you gotta convert them to a date. So that's what those two are. And then I'm creating the text for the message using the fields from the Google Sheet. So I'm pulling in those Google Sheet fields and I'm putting them into my text to be placed into Slack. And then this is where it's important. You filter to reminders that occur on that run date. So we basically want, say, if the reminder date is today, and today it equals today, those two equal each other, then it'll send. If not, it's not going to send anything. It'll run, but it won't send anything. And so then there's your Slack tool that uses a webhook to send messages to a specific channel. Again, using Slack tool, just like email tool, you probably should have a test area where you're not just sending all of your, you're like running it and it just keeps sending to that channel, because you're going to probably bother some people. Better, I don't know. So you should have a test channel to use Slack. Just a tidbit. Yeah.
There's not a Slack tool in Alteryx, right? That's an App Plus thing.
Yes.
Okay. We'd have to use the web features.
Probably that is a macro that our team has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a great macro. Because I love sending things to Slack. Oh, you go ahead. What? Oh, sorry. All right, so this is just an example of what it would, this is a test, it's not the real information, but what it would look like within Slack, and you can see it's automated because it was sent at 4:29 a.m., and I was definitely sleeping at that time, hopefully. So this is automated. It sends out, like I said, if it doesn't have anything, it won't send it. But if the reminder date equals today, so let's say we had a reminder today, it would send out at, in this case, 4:29 in the morning. And it would give you your year. I have it, the year, the file, so everyone knows like what the file is that we're working on, because there's several. And then the action, so what needs to be done. So it could be like so-and-so has to do this. And then this needs to be done by date. So just a reminder of the date. If you forgot, you got 4 days to do it. And then a tag. And we tag several people who are involved in the process. And then if you're in the channel and you're not tagged, you probably know it has nothing to do with you. But you should know about it.
All right, I have threw this in last minute as a use case for. This is the collegiate staff audits, and it's in progress. It's close. I didn't make any slides. I just thought I'd talk about it because it's another interesting use case. Collegius, for those who don't know, is a third party that we are using for a couple of different things, but one of them is for enrollment coach support. And so because they aren't technically ASU, we need a way to control the level of access that they have. And so essentially we have several Google Sheets, and this common theme here, Google Sheets, and Alteryx. So we have several Google Sheets that we use to identify permissions that different roles should have. We then try to join that to the roles that they provide us and compare to the access roles that they have that they have in PeopleSoft. And what we're finding, so right now they manually do this, and they're just going through and either adding people, or when they leave, they have to make sure that they remove their access. And what we're finding is, one, it's doing the job, but it's not great the way that they're doing it. And so ultimately what we're going to be providing is a single row, or maybe several rows, with who the person is, what their role is, whether they have all of the access levels that they want or need, and then basically an identifier for whether that access level is given, whether it should be given, and whether or not it needs to be added or removed. And so that's just another way that we're trying to help our teams just be more efficient. So we thought we'd open the floor. Taylor prompted this earlier. If anyone has or wants to share any ideas or anything that they are currently working on that kind of relates to this theme, feel free to raise your hand. I can bring the mic to you. I think we got one in the back. Sweet.
It's a really simple one, but I'm using my Alteryx to tell me when data loads. So I got a notice yesterday that the census CS term enrollment table had populated for fall 23, and I do that for all kinds of things like orientation or housing, where we're looking to put out a report as soon as that data loads. But it's not data I'm regularly looking at, so I'm just waiting for it to load, and then we'll set the report up and put it out there.
That's a great idea.
So I'm writing a SQL query that says, and I'm just running like one row. Does it find 2237? And when it found 2237, it's sending an email to our Slack channel. Yeah.
Great idea. Anyone else?
Look at my team.
Amadeo.
They know.
So I automate, but I do it more on Python rather than Alteryx. And what I do is I go in and I update some reports off of Report Builder, and I send them out like weekly to validate it to the schedulers. And pretty much my automation, it goes through and updates them, and it's in a while loop. So since it's in Python, sometimes it crashes if the server's slow. But if it crashes, it'll keep trying to download it, and once it downloads it, it takes it off of its list, and then it'll eventually finish off and send it to everybody.
Nice. Yeah, lots of tools available to get different jobs done. Anyone else?
Or maybe you have an issue that you're like, oh, can I automate this?
We got one more back there.
I'm coming. I know. Sorry.
So it's a little bit of both. I use Power Automate to take from a Sheets. I have a list of questions for a chatbot that I throw in, copy the answers, and we're looking for that. So looking for better ways to automate. Power Automate and just kind of telling it where to click and grab. So I'm not sure what other options I could have for that, if anyone knows. Or we have like VMs or anything that could do something like that.
I don't have an answer for your question. Sorry. I also use Google Sheets and try to automate things with that, and then in combination with like in Alteryx pulling in the current term code and then having a dynamic input tool that like updates that as the term changes, so that reports that are recurring get updated automatically. The struggle I have with Google Sheets, and I'm curious how that goes for you, is that my stakeholders sometimes will like change the name of the sheet or the thing, or like they put in the names of the classes that they're going to be teaching in the fall, which is great, but then the official name of the class is slightly different. Like instead of ASU 101, it's ASU 101-UC. So I still have to go in and check, like, oh, is this pooling incorrectly compared to what's in the data warehouse? So that's what I struggle with using Google Sheets. Like it gives my stakeholders ability to like change and update stuff, which is nice, but it also gives them the ability to change and update things, which can like mess up my workflow. So I'm curious how you deal with that.
We haven't had to deal much with that yet, but it showed up here. So I am thinking of ways. Right now it's just been collaboration and saying, hey, we need to make sure these align. Outside of that, like the first use case was to have a like template sheet that is managed separate from the like production sheet kind of, right? Like they can update here and then push everything here, and then maybe you lock that down so they can't touch it. The only other idea I have that is kind of a part of this will kind of point out, like, if we don't see an access role that they're expecting to have, it'll still output it, but it'll just say like something like access role not found. And that could be, oh, they typed it in wrong. So now it's a cue for them to fix it. So that could look like, you know, having that conversation and saying, if you do change this, change it here, or if you do change it, you're going to get an error, some type of message, and build that in to say, you changed this, this is why it failed. We need to make sure it changes across the board.
Yeah, and I would say like also meeting and like really giving like direct instructions, like what can be done in each thing. We use also like in that workflow with the one that when I allow them to like edit their own, we have like cleansing tools in there and things too, like for like spaces. So taking specific things out, you could, if you only needed like the left side, you could do like a left or whatever. But we have a lot of cleansing tools just in case, and a lot of meetings where we like say, hey, you can't, like, this is what you can do here and this is what you can't do here, like, so kind of the help.
Yeah, that's another
Conditional
good idea.
formatting, a pick list.
So what you could do is, if there's a limited number of options, you can put that on another sheet that's hidden, and have that as a drop down in the sheet that they're updating. So it cuts down on fat fingering. That's a good idea.
Thank you. Oh, is this are we going to a new idea or? Okay.
My question was on the workflow that you guys were showing us with emails, where it's sending out the emails. What is it using to send out the emails? Are those emails being sent out from Alteryx itself, or is it?
Yes. Yes.
Andrew, can you repeat the question?
The question was for, I'll go back a ways. Right here. Was what am I using to send these emails? And the answer is this is sending directly from Alteryx.
We have a question?
Oh, I just had another idea for the Google Sheets locking it down. You can, of course, at the permissions level, indicate if somebody can edit or not, but then you can also select quadrants of your sheet that are locked only to the owner, or have different permissions for different sections of your Google Sheet, either at the tab level or like select a group of cells and lock those.
Good call out. Okay, I think this brings us to one of our last slides. Just to put some advice down. A lot of this is just mostly collaboration between the analyst and the stakeholder, and that often requires you to ask why multiple times, try and get to the root of what they want, and then be clear on establishing what, when, why, who, and then how often. That makes a big difference that sometimes people don't ask, and it might be fine to run something one time, but someone comes back 2 weeks or every 2 weeks or every month and they want the same thing, but they want it tweaked a little bit. Maybe it's not the most efficient to just one-off run every single time. Consider scalability. This is more of a forward-thinking process. Maybe someone's coming to you and all they want is to know English 101, English 102 course enrollments for a specific term. So if you're going to do that in SQL or however you're going to use it, instead of just tailoring that entire code just to English 101, English 102 for the specified term, try to do all your joins agnostic from what exactly they want, and then wait until the end to really filter down, because they may come back and say, oh, we want to expand this to English 105 for the last 10 years. And so it makes things like that easier. And I'm always curious, like, how can this be more efficient? I hate spending time plugging away at the same thing week over week. So I'm always thinking about these and always bringing up ideas to our stakeholders. So I think developing a good collaborative relationship with them, even if it's a one-off. Samantha, who was sitting here, we had a good discussion with her on applying corporate partners to a table dashboard that she was creating, and those can change over time. So one bucket today is not the same as the bucket tomorrow. So we basically built in a flag that says, hey, this is a new CP that got added. Samantha, you need to reach out and figure out where this goes, because we can't automate that, but we can build in a process to make sure it's captured and gets fixed. And then I think a big one is just using your enterprise knowledge to help inform stakeholders of best practices. In our experience, like there is definitely an ask, but sometimes, like I said, it's not what they need, and as oftentimes the subject matter experts, we know how best to get that information and provide it. So, and I think advice could the list could keep going, but
Be curious,
be curious. Yes.
be caring.
So yeah, okay. That's it for us. So I hope this was helpful and got you guys thinking on better ways to do things.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me know if you have questions.